wasn't our fucking idea, by the way. Not a chance. We do appreciate you all coming down, coming along tonight. I think it says a lot for you lot that when we do these shows back home, it takes a couple of weeks to sell out normally, and within a couple of days here it went, so we really do appreciate that. The flip side of that is, it's easier to get ex-pros and ex-Sunderland players when we're back up home, and we did try for you. We asked Naron Nosworth, and he only actually let us know this morning that he couldn't do it. Martin McFadden also sends his apologies from a Love Supreme. But what it does mean is...
pro, is he?
No, you know what I mean.
I could have got you Mickey Gray for a tenner.
We'll leave it.
Yeah. What it does mean is Craig Clark's been promoted because he wasn't supposed to be on the top bench, so I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
He's earned it though, hasn't he, over the years? He's earned his chance, you know.
Veteran.
Well, I wouldn't go as far as veteran, but you've earned your chance.
It was over the years, just seemed a bit extreme.
So hopefully, you know, you're happy with us just talking shite, which is what we do essentially, and it seems to have gone quite well so far. So hopefully it's going to be all right. We'll spend how long talking about our new signings? That's that done already, isn't it? Fucking hell. What we'll do is we'll start by just asking Barry. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Barry. He's a Guardian journalist. He's on TalkSport as well, and of course Football Weekly, which a lot of you might listen to. You could probably work out by his accent if you don't know him that he's not from God's country up in the northeast. But I'll get him to just introduce himself, how he started supporting Sunderland and stuff like that, and then we'll just move seamlessly into talking about Sunderland and our new signings.
Thank you. I'm Barry. I work for The Guardian. I do a show on Sunday mornings with Max Rushton on TalkSport. So you'll have to pardon my nerves. I'm not used to addressing an audience this large. I've worked at The Guardian for about 16 years. We started doing the Football Weekly podcast about 10 years ago, I think, during the World Cup in Germany, and it kind of took off. And then guys like these fellas here started copying us and gradually getting better than us, which is always slightly worrying. I'm a Sunderland fan. I have my father to thank for that. Thanks, Dad. He's a Sunderland fan for the same reason that Martin O'Neill is. Growing up in Ireland, Charlie Hurley was obviously a big Irish star, played for Sunderland, and that's how Martin O'Neill started supporting them. That's why my dad started supporting them, and it's just one of many bad habits I picked up off him, along with, you know, smoking, drinking, all sorts. It's an affliction he's given me. We all have our crosses to bear through life. Where, you know, this is like some sort of self-help group here tonight, I suppose. And I'm really pleased to be here, and thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. What I would like to ask you about, Barry, and I know some of the lads who live down in London might be able to answer this as well. We were just talking in the car on the way down. Me and Gareth started this, 3 years ago? 2.5 years ago? Whatever.
March 2013, I think it was.
And what we're saying is that there hasn't been a dull moment yet. Not always for the right reasons, because we go through managers and we survive relegation. But I guess we're always in the public eye, aren't we? Does that help things? Have you seen a change in that? Because when I was a kid, for example, Terry Butcher was our manager and Malcolm Crosby was our manager, and it was fucking dull as dishwater, wasn't it, Sport Sunderland? We were like hanging on in the second tier of English football, bobbing along, doing nothing. Newcastle were always in the news because Keegan was there. But it's eventful at least, eh?
Yeah, but ye guys have successfully, quite literally, organised a piss-up in a brewery here tonight, which is something Ellis Short seems to be incapable of doing.
We invited him. Oh, we did. He's in front.
I was talking to this gentleman here just before we came on, and he was saying he's pining for the days when Sunderland were just plodding along in mid-table, and it was really boring, and nothing ever happened. You know,
When was that? Sorry.
this is the big aspiration. This is the dream, and I think Sunderland constantly being in the news for the wrong reasons can get a bit tedious. Whether it's the whole Adam Johnson thing, which
We won't go there.
Yeah. The way that was handled by the club was bad. You know, even when Sam Allardyce left to take the England job, they put out this very mealy-mouthed statement in which they didn't wish him well, they didn't thank him for what he'd done. You know, I thought that was a bit lacking in grace. I don't want to be too critical of the club, but I don't think constantly being in the news for the wrong reasons, for not being very good at football, for avoiding relegation by the skin of your teeth, for pulling off great escapes, it's not ideal, is it? I mean, I'm not going to lie. There is no one in this room who knows less about Sunderland Football Club than me. But, you know, that's my opinion. I'd be interested to hear what you think.
You're going to say something, weren't you?
No, I can't
Go
remember
on,
what it
you've
was
got the
now.
stage now.
I've had
You've
too
built
many.
it up
I've had
now.
too many drinks already. And I can't remember what it was.
I want Craig to start, actually. Are people okay about the Allardyce leaving thing now? Because we brought Moyes in? Is that the general feeling? There wasn't a lot out there to replace him. I think I was quite surprised how seamless that went. You talk about the way Sunderland run football clubs these days, and that seemed too good to be true that Allardyce would leave, and Moyes seemed like the logical replacement, but there's never normally logic as far as Sunderland are concerned. But you said from the start, Craig, putting Allardyce's record up to Moyes' record. You're happy with that?
He's a better manager, isn't he? Peyton.
Can you, Craig, okay?
His record stands for itself. He's managed bigger clubs than Allardyce. He's managed them to a higher level than Allardyce managed any of the clubs that he managed. To me, he's the ideal appointment at the ideal time. This was the closest thing we've had. Allardyce coming in, I loved Allardyce. He's got the charisma. He has got a good record in the top flight. He kept us up, which was phenomenal. That dance in front of the South Stand is one of the best things I've ever seen. But there's bullets being fired at me from the front row. To be fair, as much as I would have loved him to stay, it's his dream job. He's always wanted it. He'll probably never get another chance to manage England. You can't begrudge that. And to me, Moyes is the kind of manager you might have wanted in 2 or 3 years' time anyway. The platform's there. We've got some good players. We obviously, as Stephen's alluded to, need to sign some players pretty soon to build on what we've got, because pre-season it's been a lot of kids involved, which is encouraging, and Moyes has a good record with young players, but we do need some experience in there as soon as possible.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's all right to be philosophical about the Allardyce thing, and I think as a Sunderland fan, you just become hardened to it over time, don't you? You just kind of like, oh, that's happened again, we'll just like crack on with it.
People are going to be disappointed with incoming transfers, because I put something on Twitter.
What's that, sorry?
Incoming
transfers.
Well, yeah, we can dream, can't we? I put something on Twitter
and
the other day.
There, he's loitering, seeing Hall waiting.
And people said, I said, what's a realistic amount of players to bring in? And people straight away say, we need 4 or 5. And I just think people are going to be disappointed. I've heard they've got £20 million is what I've heard they've got to spend on players, which isn't great.
Who do you have from?
A journalist.
Well.
So that could be. Potentially that could be 2 permanent players and 2 loan signings. Now
that would be enough.
Ideally,
wouldn't it?
Well, tell us what positions you would.
We need a centre back. That's obvious. We need a full back.
So you're going to sign 2 permanent players. You would sign a centre back first.
No, I just mean if you're going to get 4 players, 2 signings permanently, 2 loans, you need a centre back, a full back, a striker, and a midfielder. That would be my thinking. If that's what we came out with, I mean, it's not
midfielder,
ideal.
Including Mvilla, or
all right, it would
as
probably
well
be 5. You'd want Mvilla and another.
Do we think 5 signings are going to come? Honestly, does nobody think? Because what people seem to forget as well is Allardyce brought in 3 permanent signings in January, who all improved the side, as we know. Corney, Kazri, Kirchhoff, okay?
It was 4 really. Don't forget Dama.
I said 3 permanent signings, yeah. We forget about Undoy altogether, don't we? And it's not often that teams do that in January. Now, you can't tell me, I think, on some level, that Ellis Short hasn't said to Allardyce, OK, you're going to have 3 permanent signings, but some of this is coming out of your summer budget. sorry to sound depressing to everybody, but do you see it like that or not? Am I being negative and pessimistic?
It's a situation where there's not a lot of factual information flying around, is there? People aren't going to come out and say, I've got this much money,
let that stop
I've got that much money to spend. And then you've got a situation, obviously transfer fees are inflated because of what's happened, with the TV money. And you've seen that, the Championship now, you've got players, was it Knockout's had a £10 million price tag slapped on his head or something like that by Brighton. I mean, it's a very difficult market to operate in, isn't it? But I don't know, I think it's very difficult to decipher what exactly they're going to do. They've got 2 weeks to start the season, so it's abundantly clear that in the next 10 days we're not going to have players in place for the start of the season. Obviously, Kirchhoff got injured tonight.
Defoe's injured.
Defoe's injured. Billy Jones is injured. So really, everything's just going exactly as it normally does. If you think about it from that perspective, and we've all been all right afterwards. So really, because that's the thing, and you always think like, well, it'll not be like that next time, and then it is. And then you think you get the next something like, oh, it'll be all right. We'll do this and we'll do that. Oh, we haven't done that. Where's the signings coming from? Where's this manager coming from? And it gets worse every year. So we've had we've thought at the end of last season, we're in a situation now, Allardyce is here, everything's stabilised, he's going to do whatever he did in January, which, let's be fair, would have been a tall order if he did half as well as he did in the summer as he did last January. But now we're in a situation...
He's got the England job off the back of that transfer window, hasn't he? Let's be honest.
Yeah, so now we're in a situation where we're kind of worse than we've ever been, probably in the summer, in terms of...
So we all just go home now, or what?
No. I'm saying, I guess on paper you would look at it that way, but in terms of the preparation, it looks all right. Like the pre-season, the physical side of pre-season looks okay, but the actual planning for the start of the season's obviously been hampered by the England job situation with Sam. Moisey came in, which is they got that done relatively quickly afterwards, after Allardyce went, but we haven't got any players in. I'm not one of these people who's going to my head's not going to spin off on Twitter because we haven't signed a player or whatever. I'm not going to start tweeting the football club on social media, criticising them not signing anybody because the person who sits in the office doing the social media isn't in charge, and I don't think David Moyes has got access to it. But
we were joking about the way down the car. We were looking at people tweeting the club.
You've just got to kind of try your best to keep you cool, and I think that's probably what Sunderland are going to have to do in the next couple of weeks with the window. They're going to have to. They're going to have to keep their heads.
Dives in and tells us we're going to sign
5
world-class players.
I wanted to ask Barry, as a journalist, Barry, right? It's easy copy, isn't it? David Moyes comes to Sunderland, you link him with Fellaini straight away. That's a story you would do. Now, as lazy as that link sounds, and Gareth made this point the other day, which actually kind of persuaded me more on Fellaini, which makes a change, to be honest. Because if we're looking for a forward and people are saying we're looking for a midfielder, he can kind of do both, can't he? And if you only have 20 million quid, he's going to cost 30 million quid of it, and he can kind of cover both positions. Is that easy copy, or have you heard anything about Fellaini?
I haven't heard a thing. Sorry.
Brilliant.
But I do imagine how tall he would look in stripes. It would just be. He would be 8 foot tall, those elbows flailing everywhere. Who could stop us?
Imagine those.
We'd have some bastards in the midfield, wouldn't we?
Could I briefly take you back to the Allardyce thing? I'm really concerned because I was drafted in to Colin Murray's show as a last-minute sub on TalkSport a couple of weeks ago. It was actually the day before he resigned, because I heard that news and I thought, was it something I said? But apparently not. But Mickey Gray was on it as well, and we were discussing Big Sam, and we almost came to blows over the fact that Mickey was devastated that he was leaving Sunderland, whereas I thought it was a good thing, because I personally think the job he did at Sunderland was very much overrated. I don't think he did that.
I'm not sure I'll have someone talk about my Sam like that. I mean,
and a chill filled the room. I just think that the three he got them up 2 places up the table in 7 months. He bridged the gap of, I think it was about 5 points at a rate of less than a point a month. He bought well in the transfer window, and they still, while hard to beat, weren't particularly good. They drew a hell of a lot of games they should have won, I think, I would, and clearly everyone else here disagrees, and I'm going to slink out the back and run away before I get lynched.
I think, like, I can see what you're saying on paper, but the last sort of 12, 15 games of the season, I think, the Man City game was a turning point, wasn't it? I think because we talked about it on the show and said, it's just, there's not enough there, but it looks as though there's going to be a team. The first time we've had a team where we thought, you know what, there's a bones of a good team here, and now we're going to go down. We're going to lose Kershaw.
So the signings clicked, wasn't it, against Man City? The signings all clicked that game.
And then we lost 1-0, but you didn't come away from that game thinking, oh, all is lost. But you'd kind of resigned yourself to the difficulty that was ahead, and really they came out of it pretty well. I mean, aside from it, ironically, the Liverpool game was probably one of the worst we'd played all season, and we drew 2-2 somehow. And then we had good games against Arsenal at home where we got a 0-0 draw where we probably should have won the game. We were organised, we played really well, and in the final, I know, like, obviously, I think that's been one of the infuriating things coming out of it. I mean, I think you get hardened as a Sunderland fan, don't you, the disappointment, and obviously he's gone, and you've just got to crack on with it. But one of the most annoying things is the perception of, like, the wider population who maybe watch Match of the Day and then decide that this is the way things are, or listen to certain pundits and decide this is the way things are. For me, watching Allardyce's team, it wasn't long ball, but it was direct. It was getting the ball into the forwards quicker. But when we got into the final third, we were buzzing around, and there was bodies in the box, and they weren't crossing it necessarily, but they were making the right decisions in the final third. And they were just vibrant, and I think Kazri made a massive difference in that department because he's like so. He's just buzzing around all the time, isn't he? He's what was it, energy, wasp? Was it a wasp? Yeah, he is. That's what he's like, and very that helps. You got Barini on the other side, who might not be the best footballer in the world, but you wouldn't like to play against Barini, would you? He's like really irritating, and every time he touches him, he falls over. And
he can be irritating, all right.
So you've got that going forward. So there was stuff there, and he kind of got the best out of them, and Defoe. And I know Allardyce, as he would spin it. Allardyce would spin it that he didn't he did say when he came in that he didn't think he could play Defoe up front on his own. And then a few months later, it was like, all the managers who said he couldn't play Defoe up front on his own.
But he did it though. The difference is he did it.
But he did it and it worked. No, he made it work.
And you've got to give him massive credit for that.
He did play Danny Graham on the left wing for a bit.
You've got to give him massive credit for that. No, but seriously, getting something out. When we signed Defoe, I can remember us three. We were all like terrible, in a way, like not because he's a bad footballer.
We did terrible signing. We just said, can't really see why they've done that.
Question the logic behind
it. He finished Poyet. It finished him. Yeah, he didn't know what to do with him. And to get him to play up front on his own, something he's never done in his entire career, basically. I thought it was excellent management.
We did a show with Kevin Ball and for Into the Light, and he was saying, we kind of...
Kevin or me?
Not you.
Oh,
you've not said anything. No, it was more like he was saying... Not Defoe was the most improved player, because that would be patronising to a 33-year-old England national who's played for Tottenham, played in Champions League, whatever, played in World Cup, scored in the World Cup. But since Sam came in, his improvement in this role that he had to play at such a late stage of his career was outstanding. He, turned my view around on him. Now he's out injured, and
because we all know Gareth hates Defoe. That comes across on the podcast.
I mean, obviously, but yeah. He's been phenomenal, really. 15 goals in that team, brilliant. But you just hope now. I mean, the injuries tonight. You don't know how bad the injuries are going to be, do you? Obviously, Billy Jones is out, so blessing or curse. And then you've got, Kershaw's out. Unless we get him Villa in, then you've got obviously a problem there, because I guess Larson could sit in there if he needs to.
Is there a concern by anybody?
We've only got 2 weeks. I know. I don't want to get start flapping about the fact we haven't signed anyone. But
it doesn't look great on Sky Sports, though, does it? Where the transfers in and Sunderland comes up and says none.
Yeah.
And all the rest of the clubs are flicking through and all these players. Is anybody concerned about the reports that have circulated today, saying the club are sort of having second thoughts about paying for Villa because he's only got 6 months left in his contract, and they don't want to pay €5 million? 6 months is a long time in football.
Why don't we just take the key word there, which is report? 2 days ago,
well, that's all we've got to go on, Craig. Let's be honest.
In 5 minutes, and then that didn't happen.
If you want to tell us some inside information about players coming in,
well, no, but I mean, it changes by the minute, never mind the day. Like, you've just got to wait and see, haven't you? If it doesn't happen, they've got to find someone else. It's as simple as that. And you've just got. I don't really trust the club because they've screwed it up so many times. But you've just got to. What else can you do? None of us can walk in there and say sign a player.
Well, maybe if you send them a tweet
power.
and tell them to sign some players, they might listen.
Probably not.
And get it done.
Do it now, quick.
What, live? That would be great.
Live, yeah, do it live.
What do we think about this? The interesting corner that apparently is genuine from Everton and from Leicester. Now they're talking big money. 15 million I've heard, 20 million I've heard. But the way Sunderland fucking waste money, like Jordan Henderson's money, for example, we went inside Craig Gardner for a large chunk of it. We brought in, who else did we bring in? We brought in David Vaughan as sort of a replacement for Henderson,
Larson
didn't
came
we?
in. Did he? That's him?
Yeah.
Shea Brown, that was
historically,
No, that
Wickham.
was a bit earlier. That
Wickham.
was before.
It was
I think.
Wickham,
It was Wickham, was it?
historically,
Well
you can't trust Sunderland to keep that money. Would anybody consider selling Cornet, even for like £15 million?
Imagine not seeing Cornet.
I was going to say, do you not think 15 million, given Newcastle managed to sell Gini Wijnaldum for 25? I know he plays in an attacking position, but they got relegated. He disappeared for 6 months at least. Do you not think that seems like quite a low figure?
I would. You wouldn't. The thing is, though, we're not in a position where we need to start selling players, are we? Like,
We've only got £20 million to spend.
well, you're saying that. I don't know where you've got that from.
All right, don't shoot us down in front of everybody, Gareth.
Well,
it's getting
you know,
recorded. It's getting
It's
recorded.
been recorded, audio and
What do you reckon,
video.
Barry?
But
What do you reckon? Sell him?
No.
No, well, I mean, the thing about if you're going to sell a player, how much is it going to cost to replace him? You're not going to replace a player of his quality with 15 million quid, or you would be very lucky to do that, especially at such short notice.
Especially this summer as
And
well.
the longer it goes on, the more other clubs are going to know Sunderland are fucking desperate to get people in, so that's going to whack the price up, isn't it?
Same every summer, isn't it?
Yeah.
It happens every year. We always
So
look
no,
so desperate.
I think selling him would be a huge mistake for a fee that small.
Can you
Kevin
imagine?
Vimmer on loan, that's what's going to happen. It's like one of those types of transfers. We'll sell Cornet for like 30 million quid, which would be great, and we'll all rationalise it, because that's what you do when you're a football fan, don't you? You decide that you don't care about the actual football anymore. You start thinking about, oh, well, that was good business, wasn't it? Because that's what we all go for, isn't it? That's what we all go for, isn't it, the match, for good business. That's what we want to see. Want to see the players harvested and then sold on for more money. But that's what will happen, and we'll replace him with like that Kevin Vimmer from Tottenham on loan or something like that, and then he get injured, and then we'll have John O'Shea and that Ledger at
You
centre
just mentioned
half.
being rational as a Sunderland fan, but we all know Twitter isn't the most rational place when you're supporting Sunderland. Does anybody think Yedlin did enough as a right back?
Depends what you're talking about. If you're talking again 20 million, you're not going to spend £5 million on a right back, are you? Yeah, but not if you've got to fill. You're going to spend 10 million minimum, surely, on a midfielder. Well, it depends. I think £5 million for Mvia, yeah, but you need someone to play at the top of that midfield, don't you? No?
So for Fellaini, 13 million was that?
That's your money gone, according to you.
Well,
Your 20 million's gone.
Well, we've only got 10 million to spend, Craig.
It'll be 30
According
pence by the end of the
according to
night.
my sources.
I don't know, like, it's easy to sit here and pontificate about numbers that you can pull out your arse.
That's why they're here, Craig.
I know, but I mean, like, you can't. We know clearly that they need fullbacks, or at least a fullback and a centre back, and obviously at least one midfielder. But we've got one striker as well. Like, it does seem like every summer we have the same conversation
but I
about
guess you get, like,
holes in the squad.
I don't want to like. I'm not. Barini could play up front. Obviously, like Barini, I think, has been a massive positive out pre-season, because really it probably hasn't a proper
It's a
pre-season
new
for the
haircut.
last
It's
2
a
years.
new hair dye, isn't it?
It is. And Messi's followed suit, hasn't he? So, but you've had 2 seasons where he probably hasn't had a decent pre-season. It's coming this time. What we've heard. When we spoke to Congdon about it, and he was raving about Barini, about how professional he was.
Wouldn't he sign them?
And all
I'm
that.
not going to tell you he's crap.
Yeah, no, but it was
He
before.
did-
But he
he
didn't
didn't,
sign
he
him.
didn't,
He didn't
he
sign
was
him.
already here
It was
when Congdon
It was
came.
Stefante who signed
He was
him.
on loan when he came, when we spoke to him.
But
that time,
I mean, that's been a massive positive. I mean,
He did sign him the second time,
Yeah.
though, didn't he?
yeah, he
So-
did, but that was, we spoke to him before then, so it's not relevant, Craig. But anyway, honestly, he thinks he's all that because he's been upgraded because someone dropped out. But anyway,
We're kind of at the stage now where the transfer window is almost a more important competition than, say, the Capital
Agreed,
One Cup or the FA Cup.
Or the football.
People are more interested in transfer stories than winning stuff.
And the amount of people who get very excited about it on Twitter, I think there should be just a blanket ban on transfer speculation. No one write about it, no one talk about it, and then you just turn up on the first day of the season, see who runs out, see who's on the bench, and then go, fuck, it's the exact same as last season.
I'm up for that.
Apart from a couple missing.
And Charles
you're in the industry, sort it out. Sort it out.
What we always talk about, like we're saying, like we're making this joke on that it's every single season we're having the same thing. I'll tell you what, when you're looking at the excuse bingo card, the fitness thing is done already, mind, isn't it? Because last year everybody is so focused on how unfit the squad were last season. No, I'm not disagreeing with that.
Was done after
what
half
I'm
an hour
saying is,
against
every time you pick up a paper now and read something, the squad look fitter, they're much fitter this season. So when we lose our first 4 games this season, we're not going to be able to use. We're not going to be able to use that as an excuse anyway.
Just pick one out of the roulette, innit? Like, right, so it's not fitness, so we haven't signed anyone. Blame the chairman, blame the manager. He's probably going to be crap after 10 weeks if that's the case. Like, you've just got to give it time to just let it happen. There's nothing that you can do about it. I'm sure we will sign players, and I'm sure now that the manager's had a chance to assess the squad, find out where the holes are, he's going to look at Billy Jones and see what we've seen and go, no, that's not what I want in a red and white shirt this season. He's probably going to be back up for both fullback positions though, because we can't afford to probably bring 2 fullbacks.
The thing is, though, there might be a positive spin on it, because the closer it gets to the window, that means deals will be done when everyone's like obviously standing outside and waving purple dildos around and that. So that's the most important. That's the most important thing. Are you signing Glenn Whelan on loan at 5 to 11 on the 1st of August?
Please no.
Sorry, on the 31st of August, and that's the most important thing that we need to remember. And if that happens, then we've had a good window. But it's that sort of thing. The more players you sign near the end of the window, you've had a good window. If you don't get them in at the start, then it's a bad thing. In the middle, it doesn't really matter. You could sign anyone. Anyone you sign now, there's a video on YouTube saying how fantastic and wonderful they are. And then when they turn up, invariably, I mean, they're not very good. I mean, we've had, Kershaw, who barely kicked the ball for 18 months, came in and was phenomenal. I watched Cornet once for Lorient and I didn't even notice him. And obviously Ndoye, well, yeah. And then and Kazri I'd never even heard of before we signed him. So you just never know what's going on. And, January, going back to what like Barry was saying about Allardyce, I wouldn't go as far to say that I don't rate what he did, but he probably got a little bit lucky in January, didn't he? Like, let's be honest.
By his own admission.
He's
never had a window like it in his career.
I'm not saying that. I'm not discrediting him for it. I'm just saying it's very rare when you bring in a group of players who have that, like 75% of the players that you brought in one January window who impacted the team actually made a massive difference, and they made such a big difference.
A bit like Torre Flo and Marcus Stewart that time.
Yeah. That was a big summer.
Happy days, yeah.
Well, they 7-0 Oxford, there was that one.
But I read a stat somewhere today, and I don't have the exact figures. I don't remember it exactly, but it was something along the lines of in the past 3 seasons, Sunderland have never won more than one of their first 7 or 8 games.
No, we haven't won one of the 7. I think we haven't won until October, is it?
And
that stat? Yeah.
I think that can't be a coincidence. That's there's something wrong there, whether it's the fitness thing you were talking about or a lack of organisation. I mean, I think there's no doubt well-organised, well-run clubs do their business early. They get identify their targets, they get them, and if they can't get them, they move on to the next target and get them in. And, if you're scrabbling around with 2 weeks to go to the start of the season, you haven't brought in anyone, you're either not a brilliantly run club or you're Arsenal last season.
Or any season.
But there does seem to be some sort of chronic problem in that regard, that it takes them so long to get going. And once you get into that losing habit, it's very hard to get out of it,
It doesn't help that we have had the manager change, but that's the story of Sunderland, isn't it? Every year it's turmoil. Like, it's advocate. He can't. Is he going to stay? Is he not going to stay? Is he actually a hopeless manager? Yes. Like, it just didn't work, did it?
You're bitter because he wanted you sacked.
From a job that I didn't have.
But it's from a job that you didn't have.
He was chronically under-equipped to manage in the Premier League. It was fantastic at the end of that season where he came in, he was pragmatic, and then as soon as he tried to just go, oh yeah, well, we're going to play my way whether we've got the players or not, it just didn't work.
He had 1 year, didn't he? And it's as if he had said, I've only got 1 year. I'm just going to
go balls out and just... yeah, massively, and it was complete shite.
It didn't help him. We talked about fitness. It didn't help him the pre-season last year, travelling across from America, the west side of America,
he went
wasn't
on a
it?
bus
Then
to
up
America.
to Canada. A bus? I didn't mention a bus, did I?
I thought you said a bus.
So anyway,
we'll cut that out.
So anyway, that's helped this season. People must be happy they've stayed closer, right? You can see the straws we're trying to clutch at here to try and suggest we're going to have a good start of a season. But that has made a difference, surely.
Didn't Leicester have a pre-season in Austria last year? I'm just saying.
Well, I think part of the problem for Chelsea last season was that they did a lot travelling during summer, and during their opening games of the season, you could see the players quite clearly weren't fit enough, like physically fit enough. They hadn't put in enough effort in their pre-season because they were playing these lucrative games and travelling all the time, and presumably just didn't have the time to do the training that was necessary to get their fitness to the required standard. And that could possibly happen a few teams this season because they're all travelling around playing these silly friendlies. But Sunderland, they've been to France. That's not too far, so hopefully they'll be all right.
I think the pre-season's been, I mean, we had big discussions, didn't we, about the American pre-season. I think generally we pretty much think it's a terrible idea. I mean, I don't know what the commercial, appeal was for us going to play 3 teams in America last year, and 2 of them were probably in the 3rd division of what essentially is a 3rd or 4th tier of US soccer. Completely pointless. And you look at it now. I mean, you look at Man City and Man United going out to play a game, and they can't get a game on. I mean, they've gone all the way there to play a football match, which is apparently why we're here, and they can't do it. I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous. And I mean, can we moan about the under-23 Johnson Payne Trophy or whatever it's called?
We'll bring it up. I think we need. What I want to remind people is, I'll put little cards on now. It's probably obvious that I would expect you to write something down on there. But that's because when we do these live shows, the second half is always the content's always dictated by your questions. And what we'll do, hopefully, can we floor walk? Have we got a microphone to floor walk?
I don't know. Have we got a microphone?
We'll see. We'll either read the questions out on your behalf, or we'll floor walk and you can read them out yourselves. Any questions you have, anything you want to add to what we've been saying. I know there's been a few head shakes around with some of the things we've been saying.
Generally, as soon as we got up.
So write your name on as well and try and do that, and then we'll come back, and we are going to mention that when we come back, the under-23 thing, because I'll be interested to know what people think about that. The tournament.
A squad as thin as ours definitely needs more games. That's exactly what it needs, isn't it?
Well, we'll see. We'll see what people say. So we'll take a break for 20 minutes or so.
Well, don't ask me. I don't know.
You're the organiser, Gareth. 20
minutes
or so,
is good.
And then we'll come back.
Fine.
Don't forget to write your questions down, because we can't start unless we have a good amount of questions. All right?
Cheers.
So thanks for now.